My background technically is in material science, physics and sort of engineering. I've been spending a lot of time trying to think about the energy and climate relationship in terms of if humanity wants a certain type of climate, how do you actually get there? What are the options to get there? So if we wanted to limit ourselves to 2 degrees of warming and we wanted to have a CO2 concentration in the atmosphere stabilize at 425 or 450, technically, what do we need to do between here and there? Can we solve it with nuclear, with wind, with solar, with wave? How do you do it? So a lot of sort of systems energy analysis. Probably the most important thing we need to do first is decide collectively what the end game is. What do we want the world to look like in 2050 or 2100? And from that, we can figure out what we need to hold the atmospheric CO2 concentration to. And the reason that is the most important first step is once you have that, you've then taken it from you've then reduced the problem to an engineering challenge. Because once you've said 450 is the goal, let's hit it, let's not miss, there are many, many engineers who can then say, all right, I know how to make this much contribution to hitting that target, or this much, or this much. So step one, of incredible importance, is committing to the end goal we want, and not just in a political sort of yada 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 sense, but like genuinely, okay, we're going to hit 450. Then or 400, or Jim Hanson's 350, that would be even better. So once you've done that, then you say, okay, we need to generate 10 terawatts of clean energy and shift our transportation fleet over to electric and hybrid, and we need to do this and that. And you can pretty quickly get an idea of in what time frame you need to do what, and you can then fairly analyze the effects of doing it with wind or with solar or with nuclear, or in fact with all of them, and how do you choose that balance? How do you invest in the right technologies today? Technically, the hurdles are things like building or modifying the existing electrical grid such that it can accept the new types of energy the way they need to be distributed. So, solar and wind, the majority is in the south and in the center of the country. The population centers are in the east and the west. So if you're using a lot of that power, how do you get the energy to where the people are? So that's a significant technical challenge. Other significant technical challenges, the principal one is really scale. And when I mean scale, like how many wind turbines, how many solar cells, how many nuclear power plants, how many geothermal stations, how much storage. And behind each one of those questions, there's a significant technical challenge in just getting the production up to scale in the time required. I could summarize the question of what are the biggest challenges to getting there, and it's almost entirely social and political. And it's purely a will-based thing. If we actually said we are going to hit this climate target, it's technically achievable and quite quickly. We just really need to commit to this is what we want for the country, for the world, for the future. So overriding all else in terms of critical challenges is just that will and that commitment to hitting the outcome that we want. Within that, then there are all sorts of technical challenges. The reality is, if we try to pursue this with a lot of solar and with a lot of wind, is we're going to use enormous amounts of the land area of the planet. Quite significant. So imagine to do enough solar for the United States, you would cover an area of land equivalent to every road and every building top that's already out there. So that's pretty significant. And in terms of nuclear, one of the principal technical challenges with nuclear is we need to commit to breeder reactors, or a nuclear technology that, instead of just using a small portion of the energy in the uranium, uses a large portion of the uranium. In order to do that within nuclear, we need to sort of solve some proliferation issues and other issues about it. If we go with those technologies, we end up with sort of nuclear waste, nuclear proliferation challenges. All of those challenges are solvable, and there is precedent and we can do it, but we're going to have to face up to them at scale. With wind power, we face, technically the modern wind turbine is an engineering masterpiece, and it's a very mature technology. We just need to learn how to make them a lot faster, how to site them in better locations, and how to store the intermittent energy from wind. We need to look at new energy sources that we haven't tapped before, things like high altitude wind power. So that's wind at altitudes you can't reach with a traditional turbine. There's a lot of energy there. We need to work on extracting that or finding out if that is one of the possible solutions. We need to do an enormous amount on the efficiency side, and the first thing is probably getting a better description of what we really mean when we say efficiency. There's sort of two kinds of efficiencies that we talk about. One of them is the efficiency with which we generate energy. So a wind turbine is, it extracts, a modern wind turbine, about 50% out of the theoretically possible 59.6% of energy from the wind. So it's a very efficient machine. But a coal power station, we only get about 30% or 35% of the energy out of the coal as useful heat and electricity. So we can drastically improve the efficiency of a lot of the generation side technologies like coal and natural gas and combustion. We can't, wind, we're not going to do a lot of efficiency improvements, but then solar, there's the efficiency of the solar cell. So they're about 10 to 20% efficient today. We probably aren't going to make them a lot more than 30% efficient. So we're approaching as good as they get. So in that case, we're not going to get more efficient. So that's the demand side efficiency. On how we use energy, this is what in the public consciousness is efficiency. So driving more fuel efficient cars, heating your house with less energy by having double paned windows. And a lot of those efficiency technologies are technologies, and a lot of them are just behavioral change. Eating less meat is an efficiency technology because it takes a lot of energy to produce meat. Riding your bicycle to work is an efficiency technology because you're offsetting vehicle use. So there's a huge challenge on the sort of social and personal changes that we have to make on reducing energy demand. Technically, it's completely realistic to be able to close the gap between where we are today and where we might want to be in the future. Socially and politically is a different question. And the gap is actually quite profound. We really, we need to invert the fuel mix of the way we get our energy. And when I say invert, 80–90% of the energy we use comes from fossil fuels. We need that to be 10%, and we need the renewables, and we need nuclear to be the 90%. So really it's about completely inverting the energy generation system that we have today. So it's a significant thing. It's completely doable. It's doable in 20 years or in 50 years. We just have to commit to doing it. In terms of the will to make the changes, on my happy positive days, I think we can totally do it. And I think we've built an amazing new suite of tools with social networking tools and the internet, and we have the better communication across cultures and within cultures and in cities than we've ever had before. And I think those tools, when you're optimistic, could be used to very quickly help inform people and make the changes socially and consciously that we need around energy use. On my dark days, humans are humans, and we haven't shown a great deal of desire to veer off the course we're on. And there are still obviously a lot of people who are climate skeptics, and a lot of people who even if they believe that their climate change is real, they don't particularly care because it's beyond the horizon of their own lifetime. We can talk about technology all day, every day, and we can talk about social change, and both of those things, and the entire problem really comes down to people. So Next Agenda and their project to bring together people who are working tirelessly on these problems is a fantastic project, and to be involved in a day where the most motivated and the best and brightest in these new technology areas and in this energy space can get together and collaborate on the solutions is a fantastic thing to be involved in. So in terms of getting America to solve its energy challenge, in terms of both the climate goals and the energy security goals of producing its own energy, we can totally do it, and we can get there. We just need to have a very rational conversation that uses what we know. We shouldn't be relying on magic new technologies. So the scientists and engineers of the past 2 centuries have done a fabulous job of outlining the options we have, and it doesn't look like there are a lot of technologies just over the horizon that will save us. So we're going to be doing it with what we have today. And so then we need to have a conversation that uses real numbers, and we need to measure things, and we need to predict things. We need to have a good conversation about nuclear so that it isn't, it's not an irrational binary conversation about the dangers or the risks. Comparatively, nuclear is a very low risk technology compared to coal, for example. We need to have a much more honest conversation about biofuels and solar and wind power and how much land is required for producing the amounts of energy we use with those technologies. And that conversation helps us choose the right ones to invest in and the right ones to deploy at the massive scales that we need to deploy them. So, you know, that's how we get to where we want to go. I think we have to start with very thorough and thoughtful analysis of what we know, and humanity knows an awful lot. And from that, we can make very well-informed decisions. We need to involve the economic part of that conversation. So a lot of the people who would put up barriers to solving this problem put up principally the economic barrier. So we need to think creatively and cleverly about the economic issues in order to really get this done.